This episode of The Unstarving Musician is powered by Bandzoogle, helping musicians around the world create professional artist websites. I somewhat recently moved my own artist website over to Bandzoogle. You can see it at robonzo.com. I'm a longtime WordPress user and website designer, so trying a system like Bandzoogle was kind of a big deal to me, but I know that WordPress ain't that easy to learn, and lots of musicians have no interest in learning how to use WordPress, but will try something purported to be easy to use. Well, it doesn't get much easier than Bandzoogle. I've talked about the numerous features they have at the front end of other episodes, but after talking to Dave Kuhl, VP of Business Development with Bandzoogle, I learned about several other features that are especially interesting right now, such as crowdfunding, subscriptions, donations, and all of that without fees added. They also have tools to help you sell merch, tickets to your shows, build your email list, and more. They have support 7 days a week. So look, go to bandzoogle.com to start a 30-day free trial. You can use the promo code ROBONZO to get 15% off your first year. That's bandzoogle.com, promo code ROBONZO, ROBONZO. This episode is powered by ConvertKit. More than just an email marketing company, ConvertKit is focused on landing pages too, in order to give beginner creators the ability to build a quick website and start gathering email addresses. I've been using ConvertKit since early 2016. My, how time flies. ConvertKit's free plan allows creators to make unlimited landing pages and forms. Choose from multiple templates, add personalization and design, include an incentive email, create a thank you page, manage subscribers, and send broadcast emails. Plus, you'll get access to the ConvertKit community page where you can join groups, follow topics, post questions and comments, and interact with other creators. To connect with your audience and make a living doing the work you love with ConvertKit, go to the show notes for this episode or unstarvingmusician.com/ConvertKit. Let's do the show. Welcome, my sweet salamanders. This is Robonzo. On this podcast, The Unstarving Musician, I have conversation with independent musicians and music industry pros to discuss the various aspects of independent music artistry and the journey therein. My intent is to help independent music artists do more of what we love, which, of course, is to make more music. Do you want to help others find this podcast? You can do so by subscribing on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. It really does help. The Unstarving Musician podcast is made possible through the generosity of listeners like you. One of the easiest ways to offer support is to join the Unstarving Musician community, and you can do so by going to unstarvingmusician.com and join right there on the homepage. As a member, you'll receive from me tips and lessons you can use in your music journey. And this is not just stuff coming from me and my years of experience as a gigging musician, but also from the hundreds of other musicians I've talked to as part of this project and podcast. You'll also get a free copy of the Unstarving Musician's Guide to Getting Paid Gigs ebook, and that is all free just for being part of the community. To learn more about the other ways of offering your support, please visit our sponsor page at unstarvingmusician.com/crowdsponsor. My guest for this episode is Camellia Akhamie Kies. She is a drummer and she's also a mom, kind of a new mom. She played drums through her entire pregnancy, touring and performing. Her son Julian was born in March of 2019, so he's a young guy still. She is now a case study, as there weren't many, if any, expecting mothers playing drums at the level that she was during her pregnancy. Camellia is an Army vet, having played for the U.S. Navy's 7th Fleet Band, where she got some of her chops. She's toured several countries in Asia and Latin America and the Americas. She's performed on national TV in the U.S. She is a teacher and composer. And as of today, she has over 43,000 followers on Instagram. That's pretty cool. And now she's tackling YouTube. It's starting to take off. She's getting some traction, I can tell. I'm excited for her. Even though she's pretty amazing, actually she's really amazing, she confesses that self-limiting talk is something she too deals with. We all deal with that sometimes, right? We commiserate about this, and we also compared notes on writing new songs and a little bit of notes on what the heck we are doing right now amidst this COVID-19 experience we're all going through. You know what? Camellia is an inspiration. I think you're going to enjoy this conversation. Here is me and Camellia Akhamie Kies. So you were born in Heidelberg, Germany. How much of your life did you spend there?
I lived in Germany for the first 2 years of my life. So my dad was in the Army, and that's where I was born as a result, on a military base.
I see. Do you have any ties there at all any more as far as like family or anything, or not so much?
No, not that I know of. But,
yeah.
It's just kind of cool, and it's different to say when someone's like, "Hey, where are you born?" They're thinking you're gonna say somewhere in the U.S. and it's like, "Oh, I was born in Heidelberg, Germany." It's like, "Huh?
Yeah.
Are you German?" It's like, no.
No, it is. It's
military.
Cool. It's cool, and I had to ask. All right, so I'm not going to ask you what it was like. I'm assuming you have scant memories of it, but so it was. You were born on a military base, and I did notice that the Army has been, and the U.S. Navy has been a big part of your music career. Did your dad being in the military have any influence on that, or was it just kind of somewhat your own thing that you got involved?
My dad, yes. Definitely him being in the military kind of paved the way, because my mom, since we were little kids, I have two other sisters, she really didn't want us to go into the military. Right, Julian? She didn't really want us to go in. She was like, your dad did that already. But my dad, on the other hand, was like, yo, you guys should go into the military. It's good experience. You'll learn. You'll make money, And so after I finished high school, I wanted to go to a few music schools, but I didn't get into the ones that I wanted to go to. So I was driving around with my dad, and he's like, you know what? You should just go to the military first. Do 4 years. They'll pay for your school. And so I was like, well, if I go into the military, I want to play music. And I remember going home that night and Googling Navy band, because he told me, he's like, don't do the Army, don't do the Marine Corps, like listed all the branches I shouldn't do. And then he was like, do the Navy, do the Air Force, or if you can get in. And I was like, okay. So he kind of narrowed it down for me. And from there, I auditioned to get into the Navy band. And my recruiter, it was kind of funny because he didn't really know there was a Navy band. He was like, I went in to the recruiter. I'm like, hey, I want to join the Navy band. And he's like, we don't have a band. And I'm like, yeah, you do. Like, you have a band. He's like, well, so I had to convince him. And the Navy has the smallest, actually the Coast Guard has the smallest military bands. They have one band. The Navy has about 12. So they're like very, very small community of musicians, to the point where, you could be in the military and not know there's a band, like him, for example. So after convincing him that there was a band and taking the ASVAB, I started the whole process in auditioning and joining the military band, the Navy band. So my dad, yes, he definitely influenced that for sure, because he was just like, oh yeah, go do it. Even though my mom was like, I don't really think you should. And yeah.
Understandable. And what was, I don't know anything of that world. I've not served in the military. I have a younger brother and an older brother that have, and some other extended family members, of course, but I don't know. Not even sure if I know anyone else who's served in a capacity where they were playing for one of the bands in one of the branches. What is an audition like compared to any? I'm assuming you've done some other auditions in your life too. How do they compare?
Oh, yeah.
How does it compare to the civilian audition?
They're actually quite similar. So I've auditioned for some schools, like universities, Rutgers University, and then I auditioned for VCU, Virginia Commonwealth University. So I had auditioned for 2 colleges prior to auditioning for the military, and it was actually pretty similar. You basically have a guideline or things that they want to hear when you go in. So they usually want to hear a prepared piece, university or military. You got to have a prepared mallet piece, a prepared snare solo, a prepared drum set piece. If not a drum set piece, they're going to ask you to play certain styles. So they want to know that you can play jazz, you can play rock, you can play funk, you can play different types of genres. So if you're put in a situation where they're just like, hey, we need you to play this. You're like, oh, I don't play that style. It's like, yes, you do play that style. And if you don't, you're going to learn it, because like they're kind of getting a baseline of what you know. Because as a drummer, as a percussionist, it is a very, very wide instrument, because there's mallet percussion, there's melodic percussion, and then there's hand percussion. And then you enter drum sets. So when you say, oh, I play drums or I play percussion, it's like, okay, like what kind? It's because it's so big. It's very big. So knowing what they were looking for, even if it's university or if it's military, they have a pretty good outline of what they expect and what they want to hear. So rudiments on snare, and then, different styles of drum set, and then scales. You got to know your scales on the mallets, university or military. So.
Yeah, and it kind of seems like an endless universe when you talk about the different types of the different types of drums and percussion, and then all the different genres and styles there within. And I've come to learn from the little bit of formal study that I have done. I thought, wow, so every instrument is pretty much like this. Maybe, I don't know, maybe drums are unique, and you mentioned some things like mallet drumming and these other things, but I was thinking, wow, every instrument is kind of like this. You can just spend a lifetime learning different styles if you choose to. So that's cool. Well, those are a lot different than any of the auditions I've ever been on. I'm a self-taught drummer, and I played in a lot of rock bands, so you could probably imagine. And I never was in the military. I didn't go to music school. I took a little, some classes in college, but not terribly seriously. So you can imagine what my auditions were like in comparison. But I'm sure that's what you just described to me is something I hadn't put a lot of thought to, just the typical audition for someone who's looking to get into a good school as a music major. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Thanks for that. Let's see. You mentioned something I wanted to ask about, and it's going to come to me later. So let's just go to the next thing I had here. So Akhamie Music. Did I say your name right?
Akhamie.
Akhamie.
Very close.
I knew I was going to mess it up. I practiced it too, believe me. Akhamie. If I would just looked at my note, so I would know Camellia Akhamie Kies. Akhamie Music Limited, or LLC, and the Beach Drum Shed. Tell me about the history of starting that up and where it's going.
Wow. Okay. Okay, I'll start with the Beach Drum Shed. So the Beach Drum Shed idea started a few years ago, the summer of 2017, after I had finished taking classes at the University of West Florida for the summer, or for the year, and I was in my apartment in Pensacola, Florida, practicing, upstairs on the third floor in my apartment.
It's hard.
Like I was on stage. So anyways, I got some complaints, and people were just like, you got to stop playing the drums, basically. So I was like, okay, put the drums aside. And then my husband was heading out to the beach to go kiteboard. And I was like, you know what? Let me pack up this drum set and take it outside and just, play outside and enjoy while you're doing your thing. I'm going to be practicing and working on some stuff. So that is how it started. And it didn't really start growing until I started. I remember I invited one of my friends from school. I was like, hey, come out and play with me. And this is where I practice, because drums, percussion, it can be a loud instrument. And to have it played in an apartment is not ideal for everyone else around. So I started inviting people out, and next thing I know, we were out at the beach, and people stopped driving. Like, we were on kind of like just in the sand, but people were passing by driving or something, and they started stopping. And they're just like, "What is this called? This is amazing. What is this?" And I'm just like, "We're just practicing." And they're like, "No, this has to be called, like, what is this?" And I was like, you know what? Maybe we should try to name this or make this into something. So by that time, we had about like 4 or 5 drummers out outside on like the side of the beach, like playing. People were stopping, taking pictures, and I'm like, you know what? I do need to create something that's gonna bring all of this together, because people are taking pictures, but they don't know what to tag. So they're gonna post this picture, and it's just like a random group of kids hanging out playing drums. I was like, this needs to be called something. So we kind of thought, and the name Beach Drum Shed came up, and I was like, you know what? That's what we're going to call it. And from that point, I created the hashtag. I created the website for it. I created the Instagram. And now people all over the world use the hashtag Beach Drum Shed when they're playing music or drumming outside or playing percussion. So it kind of has taken off in that aspect. And my idea long term for it is to basically make it into like a drum therapy class or group that's kind of thinking long term on it, because I'm like, you know what, this is really cool. You know, and after I started learning about the mind and brain and music and how all of it kind of interacts with the body, you know, it's just like, you know what? This needs to be something. So it's in the works. It's in the works.
I love it. What were the biggest challenges with hauling your gear out to the beach and getting set up and all that to play when you first started? And maybe they're the same today, I don't know, but what were the big challenges in sort of getting started? And I love, by the way, that you, or I guess want to underscore that you did this surely out of necessity, and I think it's really great, because I have had similar situations, and I could see where it'd just be like, okay, I'll go do it outdoors. But yeah, what were and what continue to be, if any, the big challenges of doing that?
I guess living on the third floor in an apartment at the time in Pensacola, it was just kind of, you know, getting the drums downstairs and getting them in the car, but it wasn't too bad. It was actually quite fun in every single aspect of it. When I first started, I used to carry my drums really, really far into like the sand dunes. Mm-hmm. So I was like really, really far away from people, and until I got to the point where I was just like, I would park my car and then almost set up right next to my car, which was a lot easier. The sand, when I took the Beach Drum Shed to Corpus Christi, Texas, the sand really ate away at the hardware. That kind of ruined some stands. Not ruined, but you know, it just eats away at the metal. Mm. So that was kind of one of the challenges, playing outside with certain types of sand. The sand there is a little more sticky, and it kind of just sits on the drums, and it really just eats away. Unlike the sand in Pensacola, which is a little more like light, and it kind of just flies away.
It's a little more oil free.
Yeah, seriously.
Did you spend time in Texas? And I was going to ask you about this because I'm looking at a picture of you right now on your website, I believe, and there are some license plates behind you, and one of them is Texas. And I ask because I was born in Fort Worth, Texas.
Oh, cool. Nice. We lived in Texas for 6 months because my husband, who was also a musician in the military band. That's how we met. We met in Japan. He's now a pilot. And wow. He was in school. He was in flight school in Corpus Christi, Texas. So that's why we were there. And yeah.
Wow.
That's the backstory. He's currently in Bahrain as of today on deployment. So.
Oh, wow. Well, that's interesting because my younger brother, who I mentioned served in the military, spent a lot of time in Bahrain during Gulf War. Yep. Wow. It was kind of scary times for all of us. And then did Akhamie Music, the company, that kind of came out of necessity too, I take it, because you're building this thing. You're like, well, I guess I better formalize it, right? And do all those things I need to do to protect myself, right?
Yeah, totally. Akhamie Music formed, or I started Akhamie Music shortly after I graduated from school, University of Maryland, University College. I was like, you know what? Because I studied digital media and web technology, And because I know the importance of, especially now, social media and videos and all this stuff that people are just consuming like every single day. So I went and I studied that. And so when I was getting ready to finish up school, I was really just like applying everything I learned. Like, okay, I need to start a business. I need to get a LLC. I need to have a website. And I went through like every single step, and just tried to make sure I covered every single part of this whole process. So, Akhamie Music Akhamie is my maiden name. So that is a Nigerian name, and it means this one will not be taken from me. And there's kind of a backstory on that. My dad, David Akhamie, wrote a book. It's called Pathway to Promise, and it kind of discusses his childhood and growing up in the village. So yeah, it's interesting, and it makes me and my sisters and I first generation Americans from Nigeria. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
But,
so your dad grew up in Nigeria?
Yes. He grew up in a very small village, Afoa. It's in Edo State. So my sisters and I, we've actually had the opportunity to go back about a couple years ago for the first time. Well, I went there when I was 2, but I don't remember, so I don't really count it. So to me, it was my first time. And so that was kind of all like kind of full circle, especially when I started to explore like African-based music. And my dad, for the longest time, was like, it's already there. He was like, you don't need to study it. It's already there. And I'm just like, but I don't know. And I kind of understand what he means now. Like it's all you have to do is just kind of like listen to it and add it in. It's already naturally there in your being, all that hippie stuff, kind of. So.
But clearly studying it has been a good thing, I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. Just like, so what Akhamie Music is like a collaboration or a mixture of Latin music and African music. And a lot of people that listen to my stuff, they're just like, is this like, kind of has like a Brazilian samba vibe to it, or it sounds like it's from this country in Africa, or this, or this, or this. And I'm just like, it's a mixture. I'm influenced by several different genres, even jazz. Jazz is in there too. So, it's kind of interesting to hear what people are getting out of it, because sometimes they'll say something and then I got to go look it up because I don't even know what it is. I'm just like, I don't even know what this genre that you're talking about is. And then that will lead to something else. It's like, oh, wow, I kind of do hear those, similarities. So.
Well, that's neat. I'm sure it exists elsewhere in the drumming world, but I don't hear a lot of, or I don't talk to a lot of drummers who are so blending those styles. But, I'm sure for many people, I guess myself included, it happens somewhat subconsciously. But, I just haven't had a lot of discussion with people that are very consciously blending the styles to, try and do something proprietary. So I also happen to notice, and I don't know when this was actually accomplished, it seems kind of recent, but that Akhamie.music on Instagram is over 10,000 followers now, and that the hashtag Beach Drum Shed is very popular around the world. So how's that feeling, and did you have some help or coaching on that, or did you just kind of figure it out? And by it, I'm talking about your social presence.
So I do contribute some of it to school, because that really gave me the confidence, and so the whole hashtagging, I would watch other people who were successfully doing it, because my whole thing is, and I try to apply this thought to every aspect of my life, someone's already done what you want to do. And if they haven't, you need to do it. But so I was looking at Instagrammers and YouTubers who have already accomplished what I wanted. If they had, 20, 30,000, 40,000 followers, what are they doing that I'm not? So I would go to their page and I'm like, okay, they're using these certain hashtags. Okay, let me write those hashtags down. Oh, wow, they created a hashtag. Okay, I need to create a hashtag. Created beach drum set. What else are they doing? Oh, wow, you know what? They're always engaging. They're always interacting with their followers. Because, like, when I first started Instagram, I was like, I am not going to comment. I'm not going to like. I'm just going to look. And a lot of people do that. You can tell they have private accounts. They don't say anything, but they're watching. And when you do that, you're really in the position to not build anything. You're just kind of absorbing. So when you come on the other side, you want to start creating. Then you have to start interacting because people are going to be asking things and they're going to want to know things. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to follow behind the people who've already done it. They've already reached this. What are they doing? And I started copying what they were doing, but I put my own twist on it. I'm still putting what I'm doing out there, but I'm just following how they reach the same level of success that I want to reach. So that's really what kind of helped me with the whole social media. And now I'm working on YouTube, and I bought a masterclass. His name is Rocky something. I don't remember his last name. But I'm like, you know what? He's trying to help people get 1 million followers or subscribers. Okay, this is one of my goals. I need to go find someone who's already done it and basically just do what they did.
Well, good job.
Yeah.
I mean, you're doing well. As I was asking the question, I thought, well, you certainly could have had, hired some help to get it going. But yeah, good job in just sort of figuring it out and also investing in yourself to further the ground that you've already gained. And I'm actually quite impressed with your YouTube channel too. I was checking it out, and that reminds me, I saw something pretty cool on there, and we were talking about your son, whose name tell me his name again. May we say his
Julian.
name? Julian. I should have remembered that one. You played through, I don't know how common it is. It's probably not that uncommon, but I still thought it was very cool. You played drums through your entire pregnancy from, I guess, around July 2018 to March of last year, 2019. Yeah. And I'm like, well, I know that kid's comfortable around the drums, having heard it and felt it for so many months.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just, I was a little nervous about it at first because, you want to make sure everything's going well. And that was another thing. There wasn't much information out there about women having babies and playing through their, it's like, for one, there's not many female drummers out there. So we're unicorns, So and then it's like, okay, oh, wow, she's pregnant and she wants to continue to play drums. So I talked to my midwife, and I was just like, should I stop playing? Because my husband was like, he doesn't know. There's no information out there. No one knows anything. So we're just like, okay, we talked to our midwife, and she was like, oh, no, you're good. And she was just like, there's a lot of fluid that the baby sits in, and there's a lot of skin, and there's a lot of between you. And she was like, be mindful. So I wasn't really playing loud, and the shows I did, I was always using like lighter sticks or just being conscious of it. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't playing any like hardcore rock concerts or anything, but she kind of gave me the confidence, like, go ahead, keep doing what you're doing. It's good for you, and it's good for the baby because it makes you happy, and it's going to make him happy. And so that was really helpful. And that's really what I needed. So.
Yeah. Do you notice anything about Julian that was clearly impacted by growing up in the womb, hearing and feeling you playing all that time?
I would say he's just very interested. He's definitely interested in drums, but I have the instrument all over the house. So he kind of came out, and he was just, I handed him sticks. I showed him how to hold them. Probably he was about a month old, and he just goes. He does it, and he's learning how to roll now, and he's kind of just building on the foundation. So, but yeah, he'll be dancing and kind of bouncing up and down when he hears music or hears drums. So I think it's really helped. And like, if anything, it'll be kind of interesting to mark his progress and see what happens, because like I said, there was no real information out there. So I'm kind of like the person. So I plan to make a video on what it was like or playing through pregnancy and drumming through pregnancy, because I have videos on my YouTube channel that kind of talk just about like me doing it, but none that really explain the experience or, so that's one of the future videos I plan to make.
Yeah, I see a lot of possibilities for you there. And for Julian to provide some great information, and just also for you to share what was, I'm assuming, a really fun, enjoyable time, and just like a great story. So that's cool. And yeah, to me, I used to think there aren't that many girl drummers, but now with social media and podcasting, YouTube, I see them a lot. But I know, relatively speaking, it's still probably the same. But I'm still a little surprised that you couldn't find much information on it. But again, how exciting for you that you can be one of the pioneers to be there to say, hey, it's okay. These are the things that we know, and maybe a few things we're not sure of. Maybe a metal band drummer's not the, maybe that's different. But so
yeah. I mean, yeah. Who knows? But it'll be cool to, I don't know, to put the information out there, because a lot of the girl drummers or female drummers that I follow, none of them have kids that I know of, like the really big ones, like Taylor Gordon or Sarah Thauer. Like they're like, so Annika Niles, they're really, really big in the drumming community, and they don't have kids. So if there is someone out there who has had kids and plays drums, I haven't really seen it, or they've done it and they haven't shared it. So that's the other thing. So, yeah.
Who knows? There could be, I think, women are under so much pressure to be careful about what they say they're doing, for fear that they'll be shamed or something, or people give them a hard time, not really necessarily knowing. So it'll be fun to find out what you find out. So
yeah, totally.
You do teaching, and you also at least have done teaching. You do teaching, and also DJ work. Can you talk? Do you still do DJ work? And can you talk to me a little bit about what that looks like, what that sounds like?
So teaching, I teach here in Jacksonville, Florida, at the Guitar Center, and which, because of this whole virus, not currently teaching, just online. So I teach there, and I also teach at my studio here at my house. But yes, so I do that. And then you mentioned your other question was about DJing.
Yeah.
So DJing for me is not in the traditional state of like, I have turntables and stuff like that, but I kind of incorporate like sampling. So I have like a Roland SPD-SX and an Octapad Roland SPD-30, which I would use to sample different songs and mix in my own kind of beat. So that's DJing, but in a drumming fashion.
Yeah.
Kind of. Yeah.
That's very cool. And so, kind of, do have you done that at? Where do you take that kind of thing? How is it for YouTube mostly, or do you do some live work with doing that type of thing?
Yes, I've done a few gigs, a few weddings with that type of setup, but it hasn't really taken off. And I think because normal DJs kind of dominate that area. But yeah, it is something that has taken. I enjoy doing it, but it takes time to work it up. Just like a DJ has to work on their mixes and how they're gonna section into the next song. And if someone comes up and they're like, "Hey, can you play this Taylor Swift song?" They got to be able to just like toss it in there and keep it at a certain BPM. And so, yeah, they kind of dominate it. But I've seen myself and then other musicians where I'm just like, whoa, what they're doing is really, really cool. And they're like essentially like DJing, but with their own mix on it, with pads or like sampling. And yeah, so it's really cool. I think it just takes it to a whole nother level, and it hasn't taken off yet. So yeah, it's kind of cool to should just be kind of brainstorming it and putting it out there. And, if someone's interested in it, it'll be cool to do it and showcase it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of potential in it, and it's DJing to me, someone who's still learning a lot about it. It seems like such a wide area art form, so there are just a lot of possibilities. And I'm thinking of a couple examples or places where I have learned about all those different possibilities. There was an artist who's been on the podcast named Notel. She's a vocalist and songwriter, and she incorporates DJ type, DJ sounds, and collaborates with DJs a lot, and does some interesting work. I'm not even sure what it's called, but she's recently or she's working on a set of her own samples that she'll publish that includes some vocals and some DJ collaboration. And then there's a band I used to follow years ago who they were a rock band called Incubus, and they had and I don't know if they're still active, but they had a DJ as part of that. And for someone who likes relatively heavy rock, I thought it was very cool. It was different to see, and certainly you can hear it in the music. So, I think there's a lot of potential for you. I'm excited for you.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
So be pursuing it. Yeah, you should. I hope you keep doing it. So with teaching, you mentioned online teaching, and I assumed if I asked you today, given that COVID-19 has created such a change for us, if you have been spending much time or thinking about or working on making the online aspect of that a lot bigger, and also I'd love to know, like, the stuff that you immediately, the way that you immediately jumped into doing more online right now, as you mentioned. What does that look like? Are you doing Skype lessons? But I'm very curious about the future. Do you see it as a bigger part of your future based on what's going on now?
Yeah, definitely. I'll first mention Guitar Center. When this first, I guess 2 weeks into this whole, they immediately were just like, hey, you know what? We're going to put all your students, give them the option to go online. So Guitar Center was doing it, and then everyone on Instagram, and there's now programs. People were like, all right, how can we help you get everything? So it kind of was just, it was going that way, but I think this really just pushed it over the top. It's just like, yeah, okay, everything needs to go online. Lessons can be done online. But then, it's just like, how does the student respond, or how does the teacher respond to online? Some people really enjoy that face-to-face interaction. So I've given math Instagram lessons online, which I do every Friday. So I have one coming up I do it at 6 p.m. Eastern time. I do full free Instagram live drum lessons for an hour. So I started doing that at the beginning of the year, but now it's really oh wow, people really are looking for, and they're like, hey, are you still doing the lessons today? So they're really looking forward to it. So I try to be consistent and make sure I do them. And as far as private students, some of my students are just not interested in doing online via Guitar Center or here, so or privately. So, but yeah, having the option has been there for a while, and people I have a few students that do online, but ideally, I would like to do it face to face, and the students usually like to have it face to face too as well. So, but I mean, if you are, I guess, I don't want to say dedicated, but if it works for you, then it works for you. But I think it is moving in that direction because, especially when you're not supposed to be talking to anyone, basically, or you're not supposed to be face to face 6 feet, so you kind of have to just keep your distance.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to checking out what you are doing on Instagram. That's really neat. I kind of as curious to see the content as I am as how you're doing it. So that will be very cool. And what did Guitar Center do to help? And I assume they kind of already were working on it or already had that going on, but what did they do from a, jumping into action perspective, so to speak, with the fact that the demand was clearly going to be there? How did they help you, and what specifically did they do?
Initially, they sent out an email, and they basically were just like, hey, because of what's going on, we're not doing any more face-to-face lessons, and basically kind of like an outline of how they wanted to go about it. So they presented the teachers with the information, but then they have to go back to the students and say the students also have to be interested. So that's kind of how they went about it. They told us what they were going to do, but then they said it's up to the students who are going to have to want to do online lessons. So yeah.
Have you had an opportunity to ask, just, like out of curiosity or market research, why some students have no interest? I mean, I have some guesses, but why they don't have any interest in doing that online?
I've talked to, I don't know, some of my students at Guitar Center, I guess in passing or prior to, and they just kind of, this just that face-to-face, they want that face-to-face. Like if you're holding the stick wrong, like you can kind of see it online. Like I've missed things, even me as a teacher have missed things not being like actually looking at your hand, like looking at it through a screen, and then there's a delay. So if the sound is like, I actually also did a lesson with a drummer last week, and we were trying to play something together. He's like, oh yeah, we're not going to be able to play it together. There's a delay, but like 1 second delay, which if you're going to try to play something, it needs to be right on. So just little things like that with technology that are just not there yet. So yeah, but
what about from on the technology front? Did Guitar Center help out there? Did they just make recommendations for you, like as far as platform to use, or did they have a platform that you were able to use?
Yeah, it was going to be Zoom.
Okay.
So they had that whole thing set up, and it was really just up to the student. Here it is, everything's set up for you. All right, here's your lesson time. Okay, you don't want to do online lessons, or you do want to do online lessons. So I talked to like some of my friends that also work at Guitar Center, and he has quite a few students because he teaches guitar. But out of like his 25, 30 students, he had like two students that wanted to do online.
Oh wow!
And then so. Yeah.
I wonder, that part of that may be that there's so much content for learning online already, and the live setting was a complement to what they were already consuming, because they surely are consuming educational content online already. I would think, and so that you and your colleague or friend who teaches at Guitar Center, you were a complement in the real world to that who provided them with the in real life feedback. I was going to say IRL, which I'd look at that for the longest time. I'm like, what does that mean? And finally looked it up. That seems to be used a lot.
Nice.
What Guitar Center do you work at, or do you do this through?
This is through the one in Jacksonville, Florida. Are you looking for the address?
No.
Or the specific location?
Let me tell you why I'm asking the question. Many years ago, I helped open a store in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And, I noticed as a consumer that Guitar Center's changed a lot, at least in that area, especially in that area, and in California too, where I spent a lot of years in the Silicon Valley area. And I just wanted to ask you, what is it like? What is that store like?
The Guitar Center I work at, it's pretty nice. It's newer, so I recently started working there about a year and a half ago. Mm-hmm. This June coming up will be a year and a half. So it's about 3 years old, and it's really nice. It has a lessons department, which I know some Guitar Centers don't have. Mm-hmm. But you walk in and it has that you get that warm and fuzzy because it's Guitar Center and there's instruments everywhere, and so. But the one I work at it's quite nice. Really nice vibe and really really good atmosphere. Quick story on how I got this lessons job. I was in Guitar Center a couple years ago, I had just moved to Jacksonville, Florida, and it was my birthday. I was in there buying some drums, celebrating.
What a great thing to do on your birthday.
Yeah. I saw a sign as I looked up, and I was like getting ready to start playing. I look up and it says, need drum instructor. And I'm like, okay. So I go over to the lessons department, and this woman, Susan, she's sitting at the desk, and my husband is with me, and I'm like, I heard you guys are looking for drum instructors. And she looks at me and she looks at him and she's like, who plays drums? And I'm like, I do. And she goes, she's like, okay, who have you played for? And I'm like, well, I did about 6 years in the United States Navy as a drummer. She was like, you did what? She was like, hold on. I was the first female drummer in the Navy band. I was like, what? So like we instantly hit it off. Long story short, she got me the job within a matter of days. Nice. It was like the fastest hire ever. Did the background check, just like, because I mean, they also had like several drum students who needed lessons, and they were just constantly canceling because they didn't have a drum instructor. The original drum instructor was on tour, and then the other one was having issues with just showing up to work. So, and then here I come, and I'm like, oh yeah, they're like, we're gonna get you hired. It was a matter of days. So,
well, that's great. I love that. The doors that your life experiences have opened, I tell you. Well, I've had a couple of guests on here who, one of them was very, very quickly mentioned. He's a young guy, very quickly mentioned that he works at a guitar center in California. And then there's another one who, I'll just call him older. He might even be younger than me. I don't know. But he had a lot of years in LA as a successful producer, a musician. And he has stepped away from that. He's moved. He's on some island in Europe, Malta. And he is writing his own music. He's working on his own music, but he just, I don't know, we were talking about, I wish I could remember the question, but he just suddenly mentions, I think it had to do with marketing and selling himself. And I was trying to figure out where he learned, the lessons that he brought with him to this new part of his life. And he mentioned Guitar Center. And this guy worked as a producer for quite a while. So Guitar Center was pretty far back in his history. And he said I think he was not from the United States. In fact, I'm sure of it. I can't remember what country he's from, but he started working there. And he said, they taught me so much about, helping people in a way that I thought was, I don't know, not offensive's not the right word, but, unappealing. He just was looking at it all wrong, and it really helped him in his career, and it was helping him in this, new kind of social media world as well. So I was curious about your experiences, and they sound like they've been great.
Oh yeah. It's been wonderful. I mean, not being able to teach face-to-face lessons right now, it's kind of just gives me the opportunity to work on my own music. So I've in the course of writing a few songs and plan to put out an album towards the end of this year, but I'm going to be releasing singles within the next month. I already have a song that's done, and I'm working on the music video. So this time, even though I'm not, teaching at Guitar Center right now, I'm teaching online and I'm working on my own stuff. So it's a good opportunity to kind of look within and, focus on, I guess, yourself. Because that's all you can really do.
Yeah,
so
totally.
You sit around and watch Netflix.
Yeah, totally. I understand. I have been spending time on writing a song, and I found a collaborator recently. I was very excited to have helping me. So are you planning to produce the video yourself, or do you have some help there?
If my younger sister doesn't help me, then I will probably do it myself. My younger sister, she graduated from NYU in film. She has a degree in film.
Amazing.
From NYU. So yeah, so like she's like the perfect person. So even if she can't come down here, or everything, she can help guide me, and so.
That is great. I hope that works out. That would certainly be, that's a helpful connection. And I'm sure even if she can't do it in the capacity that you're really hoping for, that she's still going to be a wealth of useful feedback and information. So very cool. I'm excited.
Thanks.
How many singles are you planning to release this year?
Right now, I have one that's done.
Mm-hmm.
The song is called Universal Love. It'll probably be out before the end of this month. And then I have two that I'm working on. I wanted to take them to the studio, but that's probably not going to happen. So I'm planning to release 3. Long story short, I'm going to release 3 singles and put out an album. So.
And why do you say? Why you said you mentioned taking them to the studio? What is the limitation in your eyes of doing that? Why not?
You do it all at my house?
Yeah.
Well, the first one, there's a lot of percussion and mic placement and background noise and room and all these little things that I kind of think about, but I'm like, I don't know, I'm just setting up a mic and just going for it. So being in a studio with someone who's a sound engineer that's like, oh, I put this mic here because it's X amount of inches away from the drum and blah, blah,
yeah.
blah. So.
Don't let those people intimidate you. I'm just kidding. No, I understand. It's funny, one of my other guests, Liz Chirelli, I haven't really looked at the details yet. She's going to be back on the podcast pretty soon, but I think she lives in England, but she has studied production, and she's a singer-songwriter, and she is putting together a workshop. She has a big community for creatives that supports creatives. I wanted to say dreamers because she calls it something dreamers, but I noticed that it caught my attention that she's going to do these workshops for how to record and produce, and the timing to see it was great, because I'm like, maybe I should watch that. Now, for me, I have this friend that I mentioned who has a long history of recording, but I relate to the other part of it, so I was able to demo guitar and vocals no problem, but the drums are the main instrumental contribution that I will make, and I'm in a condominium in Panama where the walls are basically concrete, and but the other thing, I finally found this really great inexpensive solution to creating DIY acoustic tiles. So I'm like, well, that problem is solved once I can get out to the hardware store. That's not going to cost me much, but just time and everything, and I can even make them decorative, no problem. But then the whole mic placement thing, I was thinking for 2 reasons. So this part of it will be so startup for me because I'm not built for recording yet. Meaning I don't have a studio yet. I've got some a little bit of stuff, but I need mics. And I was thinking of looking into the history of and the techniques of recording drums in the 70s, which were done clearly with a lot less miking. Maybe 60s too, like early 70s and 60s, to see what is possible. Because and one of the reasons obviously is budget for a startup,
sure.
To do it, and then also just for the fun of it, because there's a lot of music out of those eras, and a lot of drum tracks out of those areas that to me are fantastic. And I thought, how fun would that be if I could get anything close to that? So that's what I was thinking. Yeah,
that's a really good point. That's really true.
And you seem like such a I can do that, or I'll figure that out. So I'm kind of a little, I suspect that this hesitation that you have to do it all yourself is temporary, and that you're going to realize that, I can do this.
You're probably right. This whole thing has pushed me, because I was planning to be in the studio by the end of this month, early May, and taking these songs, but it's just like, okay, this is not going to happen, but I still have my same timeline. So the timeline's not going to change. I need to make this happen by myself. So, okay, I was like, all right, I got a friend who could mix and master. All right, you know what? I'm going to do it in my, my little home studio. I'm going to send it over to him and, send it back to me, and then we'll go from there. Because put it on DistroKid. They give it a little digital musical fingerprint, so makes it official. And yeah, I mean, for the most part, you can do it all yourself, you know. But it's just, I'm thinking about really, really big. Like, okay, I want this to be in a Disney movie. Is it up to par? Like, to be in a, is my song that I created like sound quality enough to be in on a Discovery Channel or whatever, you know, music used and stuff like that. So
I get that. That is a really wonderful thing to shoot for.
Well, you know, funny thing is, okay, quick story. I got a call the day before Thanksgiving from a guy who was like, I was on your website and I saw you have, you know, these tracks. We want to use these, some of your, it might be like a 30 seconds of a little beat that I made. We want to use it in a big production TV show or movie. We sell these. We are like the in-between that gets your music to Discovery Channel, PBS, blah, blah, blah. So that was the call I got. And I was just like, oh, wow. So, like, sometimes you don't really think of that possibility. Like, I put that stuff out there on my website, not really, like, I was like, I know this is going to do great. This is going to attract the person or people or groups that it needs to. But when someone calls, you know, like, I heard your song, your beat, and we want to use it. I'm like, what? So I'm like, you know what? I really got to get serious and make sure I dot my I's and cross my T's and make sure this stuff is so I have ASCAP now, I have DistroKid, I have all these things that when I produce something, no matter what the level of audio quality, it should still be it should be traced back to myself. So
yeah, well, that's exciting. And you know, if it gets you more excited, I've had a guest on here who's built a whole career out of his home studio licensing music. Wow. He hardly, you know, very seldom, you know, plays out anywhere. Although I think he's kind of got that in the back of his head, and he does once in a while that he would like to do that. But he's just constantly creating music for licensing. And I've had, I should mention his name too, in case someone wants to look him up. His name's Lance Harbill. He was in episode 73. And I've had other guys, John Christopher Davis, who's done, he loves performing. He's been doing it a long time, and he's still very enthused about what the music industry has in store. And a big part of his career has been licensing as well. But I was going to say that, Camellia, that everybody's in the same boat, even the big guys, right? They're in the same boat with the dilemma of what COVID-19 has brought up. So I think you're going to figure a way to work it out. So, yeah, well, I'm excited.
You're absolutely right.
I'm excited to hear your work. So I hope that we will stay in touch. And there's plenty of other stuff we can talk about. So maybe we'll do a round 2 conversation. So Akhamie.com, and that's AKHAMIE.com, will get you to everything that Camellia does online. You can find all of her socials there. You are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, and you're crushing it all over the place, which is really nice. And I wish I would have written down exactly how on Instagram I found you. I remember it was on Instagram, but you know, one thing leads to another. I wish I'd remembered where I saw you, but your playing is wonderful. It got me to find your contact information and see if you had some time to talk with me, and I'm really glad that we spent time chatting.
Yeah, me too. It's really great to hear the questions, and then you think back and like, you know what, how did I come up with that, or what made me do that? So it's kind of, I really do appreciate you reaching out, and thank you so much. I'm very happy to be on your show.
Well, thank you, and I think listeners are gonna get some inspiration and learn some things from our conversation. So I think it'll be another great episode.
Awesome.
Hey, thanks again for listening. If you are loving the podcast, please visit unstarvingmusician.com/crowd sponsor to learn about the various ways that you can offer your support. And again, if you're a listener, I consider you a supporter, especially if you shared it with a friend. Thank you. Look for show notes and links to most everything mentioned in this episode at unstarvingmusician.com/podcast. Thanks so much for listening. With a whole lot of gratitude, peace, love, and more cowbell. Hey there, one last thing before you go. At the time of this recording, music artists and other creators are facing unusual and uncertain times. I'd like to help out if I can. My contribution is to offer you an opportunity to work with me in a coaching capacity and to only pay what you can afford if you can afford to pay anything at all. Think of it as a virtual tip jar. The point is, I'm here for you if you feel you need the help. There's a bit of a process, but it's pretty simple. Just go to unstarvingmusician.com/coaching. There's a button on that page to schedule a 15-minute consult call with me. This is just a call to find out how and if I can help you, and it's also an opportunity for you to find out if you want to work with me and for me to find out if I want to work with you. If we both feel good about it, we'll schedule your sessions, and I'll also answer any questions you have about how it works, including the pay what you want or what you can afford tip jar thing. So go to unstarvingmusician.com/coaching to learn more. I'll have a limited number of slots, obviously, so if this sounds like something you can use right now, go to unstarvingmusician.com/coaching to learn more and or to get started. Ciao.